For over a year, a man named John Humble, later known as Wareside Jack, misled the police investigation into one of Britain's most notorious serial killers. His actions would have a profound and tragic impact on the case, shaping the course of the investigation in ways no one could have predicted. Humble sent a series of chilling letters and a cassette tape to the police, claiming to be the killer and taunting lead investigator George Oldfield with cryptic details. The letters were filled with disturbing language, and the tape was even more unsettling, as it seemed to offer the voice of the murderer himself. The tape's distinctive Wareside accent convinced police they were searching for a man from Sunderland, hundreds of miles from where the real crimes were taking place. This crucial misdirection shifted the entire focus of the investigation, diverting attention from the real killer, Peter Sutcliffe, who remained at large. Tragically, this elaborate hoax allowed Sutcliffe to continue his brutal crimes, killing at least 3 more women, while police resources were wasted chasing a phantom suspect. Officers were instructed to discount anyone without a Wareside accent, leading to repeated dismissals of Sutcliffe as a suspect, even after he was interviewed multiple times. The real killer slipped through the cracks, shielded by the false clues. The tape became a central piece of false evidence, causing a catastrophic diversion that would haunt the investigation for years to come. Linguistic experts were brought in to analyze the accent, and their confirmation only reinforced the police's misguided path, making the hoax even more convincing and difficult to unravel. Publicity campaigns in the Northeast played the tape repeatedly, urging the public to help identify the voice. But it was a wild goose chase, sending both police and the public down a fruitless path. Meanwhile, the real killer lived in Bradford, far from Sunderland, and felt a sense of relief as the police's error gave him more freedom to continue his crimes undetected. This intense focus on the hoaxer reveals the danger of tunnel vision in criminal investigations, where a single misleading clue can overshadow all other evidence. The Wareside Jack tape filtered out the truth, serving as a stark reminder of how misinformation and deception can derail even the most determined investigation, with devastating results. In the end, it had devastating consequences for the innocent victims and their families, who paid the ultimate price for a hoax that changed the course of justice. To understand Peter Sutcliffe, investigators looked back at his early life, searching for clues that might explain the darkness that would later emerge. Born in Bingley, West Yorkshire, in 1946, his early life was unremarkable on the surface, marked by the ordinary rhythms of post-war England. He was the eldest of 6 children in a working-class family, with a strict disciplinarian father whose expectations weighed heavily on him. Described as quiet and solitary, Sutcliffe struggled academically and socially, leaving school at 15 with few prospects and even fewer friends. He drifted through a series of low-skilled jobs, including grave digging, which exposed him to death in a way most never experience, and gave him a morbid fascination with mortality. This period may have desensitized him to death, and normalized his macabre interests, blurring the boundaries between life and death in his mind. Sutcliffe frequented red light districts, where interactions with sex workers planted seeds of deep-seated anger and resentment that would fester over time. Despite a marriage and steady job at a factory, he harbored deep insecurities, a sense of inadequacy, and a growing desire for power and control. Violence became a way to assert dominance he felt he lacked in everyday life, a twisted outlet for his frustrations and inner turmoil. His early life was a gradual accumulation of resentments and obsessions, each disappointment adding another layer to his growing detachment. The quiet boy from Bingley was slowly constructing the persona of the Yorkshire Ripper, piece by piece, behind a mask of normality. His life was a veneer of normality, hiding a dark and violent secret that no one around him could have imagined. There was no single dramatic trigger, but rather a slow, chilling detachment from empathy and humanity itself. Sutcliffe's early years were not just a backdrop, but the very foundation for the monster he would ultimately become, setting the stage for the horrors that lay ahead. Peter Sutcliffe's confession revealed a bizarre and deeply disturbing justification for his crimes, one that shocked both investigators and the public alike. He claimed to be on a divine mission from God, insisting that he was chosen to cleanse the streets of prostitutes and rid society of what he saw as moral corruption. This narrative provided him with a twisted sense of self-justification, allowing him to reframe his brutal violence as a kind of righteous crusade, rather than a series of horrific murders. His victims were dehumanized in his mind, reduced to mere symbols of vice and sin that he believed needed to be destroyed, rather than real people with lives and families. Investigators, however, were skeptical of his claims, quickly noting that many of Sutcliffe's victims were not sex workers at all, but ordinary women going about their lives. Sutcliffe's logic faltered when confronted with this fact, exposing the inconsistencies and self-serving nature of his so-called mission. Experts believed that the divine mission story was nothing more than a convenient excuse, a way for Sutcliffe to mask his deep-seated misogyny and hatred of women. His anger, they argued, was not limited to any one group, but was a broader rage against female autonomy and independence in general. By claiming a divine mandate, Sutcliffe attempted to elevate his personal prejudices and violent impulses to the level of a holy war, seeking justification in religion. Whether he truly believed the voice he claimed to hear or not, the so-called mission became his story, a way to rationalize and give meaning to his actions, no matter how twisted. Ultimately, it was a way for Sutcliffe to cast himself as a figure of power and purpose, even as the world saw only the horror he left behind. Before his first murder, Peter Sutcliffe engaged in violent attacks against women. These early assaults, starting in 1969, were crucial precursors. He armed himself with weapons, stalking women at night, rehearsing the act. The transition to murder occurred in 1975 with Wilma McCann's killing. Sutcliffe's method involved a hammer and knife, showing planning and desire to mutilate. The police initially had little to go on, unaware of the series to come. With Emily Jackson's murder, the pattern repeated, and suspicion of a serial killer arose. The media dubbed him the Yorkshire Ripper, invoking fear and pressure on the police. The investigation became the largest in British history. The focus on red light districts blinded police to Sutcliffe's broader rage. He was an opportunistic predator, spreading fear beyond the red light districts. Peter Sutcliffe's capture in 1981 was a result of routine police work. Discovered in a car with a sex worker, his false license plates led to arrest. A search revealed a hammer and knife, closing the net around him. At the police station, Sutcliffe remained calm, denying everything. The turning point came after a meeting with his wife, Sonia. He confessed, detailing his crimes in a flat, unemotional tone. His memory for detail was chilling, recounting specifics of each attack. During the confession, he introduced his mission from God narrative. He showed little remorse, framing his actions as a job to be done. For the police, it was a moment of relief mixed with horror. They finally heard the truth from the killer's mouth. Sutcliffe believed his actions were justified, sealing his fate. Once in custody, the focus shifted to understanding Sutcliffe. Psychiatrists assessed whether he was legally insane or simply evil. His divine mission claim was central to the debate. Some experts diagnosed paranoid schizophrenia, citing hallucinations and detachment. Others argued he had a severe personality disorder, using the mission as an excuse. The debate revealed the difficulty in categorizing Sutcliffe's twisted mind. The decision on his sanity would determine his trial outcome. Peter Sutcliffe's trial became a battleground for psychiatric opinions. The prosecution sought a murder conviction, while the defense argued for manslaughter. The prosecution dismantled the mission from God narrative, highlighting misogyny. The defense presented Sutcliffe as detached from reality, living in a fantasy. Sutcliffe's testimony was key, but his story unraveled under cross-examination. The jury rejected the psychiatric defense, finding him guilty of murder. The judge dismissed the divine mission claim, sentencing him to life imprisonment. Sutcliffe was seen as a man who was bad, not mad. The Yorkshire Ripper case highlighted catastrophic police failures. The investigation was the largest in British history, plagued by errors. Overwhelmed by paperwork, the police struggled with a manual index card system. Lack of coordination between forces led to missed opportunities. The Whereside Jack hoax exposed tunnel vision, ruling out potential suspects. An internal report criticized disorganization and poor leadership. The case catalyzed modernization in British policing. The Home Office Large Major Inquiry System, HOMS, was created. Changes in investigative doctrine promoted better cooperation and profiling. The case forced British police to confront shortcomings and enter the computer age. The Yorkshire Ripper story is about the women whose lives were stolen. It is about the innocent victims and the families shattered by Sutcliffe's actions. The case serves as a reminder of the dangers of prejudice in investigations. The initial focus on sex workers created a false sense of security. It fostered a dangerous mentality, suggesting some victims were less deserving. The lesson is that a victim's background is irrelevant to justice. Sutcliffe's outward normality was his most effective weapon. The story holds crucial lessons about policing, psychology, and society. It teaches the importance of evidence, cooperation, and empathy. By examining these events, we hope to prevent such tragedies in the future.